Well, it's been about 16 days since we've done an actual Arkham video, maybe even a little more at this point. And I think that it lines up pretty well with going back to the series and taking a look at a game that is very special to me, which is Batman Arkham Origins. This game just featured, I believe, its 7th birthday on October 25th, which was yesterday. So there's a lot I want to talk about in a brief amount of time with this game. Before we hop into it, I do want to say a special thank you to one of our patrons, Caleb. Caleb, month after month, is always helping support the channel. We appreciate you so much. And if you would like to actually check out the Patreon and see different ways that you can help support the channel and the videos we're making, I will have the link in the description down below. It is extremely helpful, and I appreciate you. Whether you check that out or not, I appreciate that you're here. So let's hop into it, because Arkham Origins is special to me for a lot of different reasons, and some of those reasons are actually reasons people don't like the game. Do I think it's perfect? No, I don't. I don't really think anything's perfect, but especially not this game. But I really do think that it has one of the better stories in the Arkham games. I know that statement right there is going to put some people off, but hear me out. I'm going to trivialize a few things here very quickly. I think that Arkham Knight is probably the worst story in this entire franchise. I think that it relies on a character that was really almost never mentioned in any of the games and didn't matter at all. I think that it relies on a surprise twist that nobody really didn't see coming. I mean, everybody knew that that was going to be the twist, but I think the story itself does suffer from like the twist and from some of the other elements that are in there. It's something I've talked about in the past. I still love it. And then I think Arkham Asylum, while being a great story, is just very basic. It's just very straightforward, Batman versus Joker. There's not a lot deeper there to it. It's still a great story and a great superhero game, but it could have been better. When we come down to the story, I personally think City is the best, but I think that this game is actually not far behind. I think it does a very good job with introducing all kinds of different characters to the series, different side characters, giving backstories to things that didn't have them already. I think it did a great job with that. I actually like the twist to this game. I know everybody wanted it to be Black Mask. I'm assuming you played this game if you're watching this. It being Joker, I actually like that. I thought that it did a very good job to tie into the Rocksteady trilogy of games, give a history and a backstory to why Batman and Joker care so much about each other, where that relationship started and that obsession, and the mirrored aspect of Batman and Joker. So because of that, I was a big fan of the story, and I thought as well that the map is very interesting. A lot of people, this is their least favorite map out of the open world Batman Arkham games, and while I understand that, I think that it might be actually up there for me as one of my favorites because of some of the reasons that people don't like. Now, I wouldn't want to see this in every game, but I actually think the isolation of this game, while it can at sometimes be a problem, it also really does work for the Christmassy spirit, the very creepy mixture of horror and scare and Christmas together. Now, this is not a horror game by any means, but it does have a lot of more gruesome and graphic elements in it that I think work well with the offset tone of Christmas, which is usually brighter and happier and everything like that. It almost goes for a Batman Returns vibe in some ways, the sequel to Michael Keaton, Batman 1989, in ways that it marries Christmas and scary themes together. You are sort of Batman just alone against all these assassins, against all these thugs, against pretty much the world. Even the police don't like you. And I think that that's another element that ties in very well to the game, is Batman not being on the right side of the law or not being in a good standing with the police. I think that that made it a very special and interesting story. It tied in elements of Batman Year One as well with his relationship with Gordon. And I do think that WB Games Montreal did a great job throwing in different Easter eggs with the Court of Owls and many various different supervillains and groups and stories and everything like that. This game, to me, some people don't like it for the reason I'm going to say I do. And that's because in some ways, this game seems like an original story while also being a greatest hits of Batman. It has elements in it of Batman Year One. It has elements in it of the Killing Joke with Joker and his backstory. It has elements in it of different Batman stories throughout while also pointing forward to Batman Arkham Asylum, City, and Night. And I also love the character designs. Now, again, I'm telling you, a lot of the things I like about this game are things other people don't. I totally get that. But I think the character designs were very sharp and sleek. This is probably my favorite looking Joker in the franchise. I like how brutal he looks and how much younger he looks. In terms of the game, the purple is darker. I thought that it just looks a lot more brutal. And I think a lot of this game does as well. Bane was actually designed very well. He wasn't just a mindless brute. He was very interesting, both in terms of story and in terms of how he was designed by WB. And finally, I think Batman himself, he was able to carry off this armored look without going full Iron Man, which was a big complaint people had about Knight, was it was almost too technological. I really appreciate the style in this. It reminds me of a mixture of a classic Batsuit, the Arkham Batsuit, and a suit from something like Batman Begins or The Dark Knight, where it's a little more armored. It doesn't go all the way into the technological aspect, but it also doesn't leave it completely behind. I thought that all these elements together really helped this game stand out and work well. Now, I will say there are things that I don't like about this game for sure that I do want to touch on briefly, and I've touched on all of this a little bit in 5 things it did right and 5 things it did wrong, absolutely, but I still think it's worth mentioning here so I don't come off saying this game is somehow perfect. I don't really like that the map itself is mostly just the map from City with some new sections. I thought that they could have done a lot more than that, explored an entirely different section of Gotham without reusing that map. But I also know that part of that was time constraints, so that does make sense. I do think that could have been better. I think that at times, even though I enjoy the lonely Christmas feeling, that it did make the game feel a little empty when you are outside, which can be seen as a good or a bad depending on the mood you're in. It can either be very atmospheric or very, okay, I'm tired of this map, I want to move on and do something else. And I also think that Enigma was done pretty poorly, actually. I think the Enigma packs are just thrown all over the place. They are a poor man's Riddler trophy system, and even the Riddler trophy system at this point was getting boring for players. So those are all definite negatives I see with this game, along with the fact that if you were getting tired of Joker by this point, it really did pull you out of the story, the Joker twist. And I also do understand that as well, that some people wanted this to be about Black Mask and other characters more. I think that it really works because this whole trilogy and I guess quadrilogy of games overall ends up being mostly about Batman and Joker's relationship, which was really cool to explore, but I definitely get how that would be seen as a negative for some people. So I don't know, overall there are so many things that I love about this game. I definitely want to wish it a happy birthday. Are there some things I would change with it? Yeah, definitely, 100%. But I still think that it is one of the most underrated games in this franchise. I think it gets way too much flack for copying City, and really, I think that the game is beautiful, especially on PC. I think it did a lot right. It really tried to introduce new elements to it as well, like the multiplayer and stuff, which they didn't work perfectly, but they were interesting ideas. And I appreciate the effort, and I like the final result that we got. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on Batman Arkham Origins? Do you love it? Do you hate it? It seems really like a mixed bag there. A pretty big split when it comes to the community. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to check out all of the links in the description as always. There's the Patreon, the Instagram, the Twitter. It's all down there. I'll see you in the next one. Have a fantastic day. And as always, stay shway.